Hey, and welcome to Keep Sane. This is episode 25. We're going to talk a little bit about kids. Um, More specifically, we're going to talk about motivation and kind of modern parenting styles. I don't know, I don't really remember because I don't make it a point to remember everything I talked about in the school year stuff, but the main things are going to be things like healthy fear. I am a firm believer that fear is really what runs our lives. And what I mean by that is I don't speed excessively because I don't want a ticket. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want my car impounded. Same with drinking and driving. I mean, other than I don't want to ever hurt anybody else there, it's the fear of the consequence that really makes sure that I am overly nervous about having one more drink. I'll still have a drink, but I'm a big guy. If I have a single drink, it's not gonna unless I'm doing that and then hopping in the car. But I look at that the same as I would as I'm really tired. I really shouldn't get on the road. Um, but healthy fear is, kids losing a video game or not getting to do what they want. I'm not really a big fan of standing in the corner. Um, Spanking is something I agree in or agree about. I don't think it's necessary most of the time, but I agree in it being a feared consequence. Um, but being a feared consequence means occasionally you have to do it. I recently spanked my 11-year-old. I didn't do it to hurt him. I did it because I said I would, even though I knew it was kind of a ridiculous thing. Never thought I would have to. It was the whole point. It was supposed to be a ridiculous statement. He still failed to do the basic thing I asked him 3 times, so he got spanked. Again, it didn't hurt him. The whole point was I said it, I had to follow through. I should have picked something else, but I picked that because I'd already taken his cell phone away, which it doesn't actually have a call plan, but it's because it's a trial. He was going to get a cell phone, then he lied a bunch, so we removed the option. And then I took the actual device because he was mainly playing games on it anyway. So he'd already lost that. So this was an additional step. He'd already lost a few things. So I tried the others. Timeouts don't work with him. He just enjoys the quiet and thinks in his head. Every time now and then you hear him giggling from something he found so funny that he said in his own head to himself. So that was something I said. He didn't like it, but it didn't like hurt him, and I wasn't. I mean, I'm big enough. I could have made it hurt, but that's abuse in my book. The whole point was a mental thing. But that's a healthy fear. Like my I have an older brother that my parents just had to be like, we're disappointed, and he would cry, like cry. This was when we were little, not when we were older. But when I was little, you could tell me, tell me you're disappointed in me, and I'd look at you blankly, like I don't fucking care. I'm disappointed in you too, because we're assholes as kids, and wishing hateful things when we get in trouble for something we did wrong. But I got spanked a lot. My brother, nope, not so much. Because they said disappointed, point got through, he cried, he went along his business. I was an asshole, got spanked, still didn't fix the behavior. So yeah, I got spanked. Eventually they had to bring in something that would hurt, like a spoon or a belt, which they only did, I think if I remember, I only did once because it was a little too effective um, in the pain category. So it was a little beyond the effect they were going for. They wanted an impact for fear, but they didn't want to abuse me. So again, kids, different approaches. And that's, people say I would never touch my kid. You know what? Great, don't. See if they become a good person. So I mean, I believe in supporting them, but I don't believe in having them not fear consequences because life is full of consequences. And they need to understand that when they're little, it's hard to speak in a way that they understand they're affecting themselves. Even when they get a little older, the kids tend to be a little bit a-hole-ish about, you know, their vulnerability to circumstances. I'll never do that. I would never, they and then they do because such circumstance changed in the moment and they did it and Oh, guess what you were saying was true. Yep, I was trying to have you avoid that consequence. Some parents say don't let them live it and learn. And yeah, to a degree, I believe with that, but I don't want them to learn the bigger ones the hard way. Um, so I believe healthy fear is very important, um, which goes with my thing of, you know, healthy fear of losing. I think competition and winning and losing is important. Um, I think participation trophies are crap. If you get rewarded for sucking, there's no point in being better. Yeah, I get sometimes even if you try your hardest, an entire team can get the shit kicked out of them every week, and that sucks. Take them for ice cream. Tell them, keep trying. Maybe you'll end up on a better team. If that sport means that much to them, see about moving them teams. I'll go back to my take teams out of the school, make it community. That way you can create better competition. You can get your kid who might be a better player onto a better team. It might seem a little unfair for the guys that suck, but if they suck and they're not putting in the effort and they're not getting better, you know, then you can't fix everything. If it's that important to that kid, see what you can do about moving him teams. Um, but participation trophies don't teach anything other than complacency for sucking. I've had, I've had my kids, well, I've had one kid mainly be on a really good couple of football teams and win first, one was second, like two first places in the second, 3 years of football. And, each time these little tiny, like, tokens of being champion and or runner up. The losers got big ass trophies, and all I could think of is it that big to remind you how like the grandiose amount you sucked? Because if it says you suck in the middle, then I would get it. I mean that's mean to say to a kid, but you get my point. It's like is the bigger the trophy, the bigger they suck. Because if it is a to scale model of their suckage, I would accept it at that point. If they remove the trophy when they suck less, or give them a smaller one when they suck less, then okay. The team that sucked the least got the smallest trophy. They won. Um, and it was blowouts other than one team, and that was the team that ended up beating them one of the 3 years. Um, but yeah, but lacrosse, his team sucked, like sucked. Like I don't think 2 wins all year or 2 ties all year, something like that. Like 12 losses. I mean, it was suckage. Wrestling team, same thing. The wrestling team sucks. There's not enough competition for guys to actually get good. There's not enough good wrestlers to get kids up to a good level. Um, and I've told them, you're going to have to go to clubs and go other places to wrestle better kids. You can stay on the team for your school, but you need to at least go train with other kids that don't suck. So you get better, because otherwise you can only dominate sucky if you get good enough to dominate. And that doesn't mean you're good outside of that mat room. But if they each got a little trophy, no matter win or lose, who cares if he does good? Not to mention, colleges don't come knocking on doors of people who get participation trophies. They're not offering scholarships. Yes, academics are more important than sports, but you know what? Not everybody is strong academically. Some people need that. Don't handicap them because you're okay with your son sucking or your daughter. I'm sorry to be assumption, but I have boys, so that's where my mind goes. You know, it's just you're lying to them. You're lying to them if you're giving them participation trophies. It's bad enough we teach them Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and all this other fake shit so they can find out later we have this elaborate lie that we give to kids. I mean, no different than all the fake answers and the other stuff. It's like, yeah, some things are appropriate not to tell your children, but lying these other grand lies are just preventing them from having happiness later because they get used to this falseness that is, their childhood that doesn't carry through. Yeah, a child should be a child. Enjoy your childhood. But some lessons still need to be learned. Social etiquette, chewing with your fucking mouth closed. Yeah, adults pay attention to that one. If you don't chew with your mouth closed, learn. It's annoying and gross. They need to learn self-motivation. You know, you shouldn't have to helicopter parent your kid. If you need to manage their homework because they're having troubles, if you need to make sure you know what it is, just to occasionally pop quiz them on what they are to have done. I do think grades need to be more flexible. I think homework needs to be a little less. I, I already had the year-round school argument that I did. Again, I'm not sure, remember how much I covered in that previous podcast, but I'm pretty sure I covered them striving to be happy, and I'm not sure if I touched on pride of what they do, but the whole point is we have to make the environment for them to, you know, realize when they do a lot of good work, good things happen. If they're going to not put in work, or if they're going to do wrong things, that there's going to be consequences and negative things that happen. Having a good work ethic, having self-motivation and a drive, having a love and a passion for exploring knowledge and exploring, the unknown, you know, to a point, maybe the unknown's too fearful or whatever, but just, I mean, the concept of you're happy doesn't have to be they're happy. I really hope my kids want to live somewhere near me based on what they want to do, but I also understand if what they want to do doesn't have an industry where I live, I don't want them to sacrifice their happiness for mine, because I want my kids and future grandkids nearby. I want them to be happy for them living their life. I've keep telling them if you want to do like computers or movies, or you're gonna like, not computers like fixing a desktop. I mean, like, if you want to work for a big tech company doing some like really high-end stuff, most likely you'll have to move. Oregon has some neat tech companies, but not we don't have a big tech industry. And if other people know what I don't, I don't see it. San Francisco, Seattle, a lot there. If you want to do movies, you're going to go LA, New York, um, the standards. But if that's not what you want, then there might be other options. If you want to work medical, which neither have an interest in, but you throw it out there as a parent in case. And there's a lot of options in a lot of places, but to understand the type of place they want to live, and it's hard. We've lived in a pretty small area, around semi, not big stuff, but a little bit busier areas, but nothing major. And they've never lived there. And I'm definitely not going to promote them living in, you know, LA or Seattle or whatever. But, maybe they would love it. Maybe they would despise it. No idea. But I encourage them as they get a little older to see what it's like. Um, as they meet people in college and have friends or whatever from those places, go visit them there. Go spend time there. Intern in a place like that. Go to college in a busier place. You can always transfer. Um, and unfortunately, we do have some serious issues with having kids be able to change their mind and make it seamless. I think a lot of that has to do with money, colleges being greedy, the way we structure school, things like that. But if we really want to do it for the kids' benefit, we need to allow them to make mistakes in school, give them the right to travel and to choose and to see stuff before they pick a career they don't know anything about because they were told by their parents and the college that it's a good career, make good money, whatever the case may be. So, I mean, as a parent, I mean, I worry about everything I say and do. I know I say and do a lot of wrong things. I like to teach, um, not teach, but I like to treat my kids like adults. Um, and that can backfire sometimes when you speak to them like an adult. Sometimes they get a bit upset because you're overly harsh, um, and overly honest. And you have to be careful. I mean, I'm not saying, be so real with them they feel crushed or whatever. Quite the opposite. It's keep their ego in check, keep their um, realism alive, so they know hey, guess what? Great, you're good at something. are you wanting, if you want to be the best, you might want to actually verify that with, you know, the, I guess, what would that be? The arena, the category, the world, if you are, instead of just saying it or assuming it. Prove it. How about the prove it part? Kid could be a good singer. Doesn't mean he's awesome. If they're not good, don't necessarily call them crap. Just say, well, you know, if you're that interested, maybe we should have you work with a voice coach just so you're making sure you're not destroying your vocal cords or, you know, things like that. Because it's better than saying they suck. Or if they're okay but they're not good but they think they're great, you don't want to crush their dream, but you can kind of find a way to maybe see if they can get better without, you know, take that approach of, well, if you have an interest and you want to put in some work, let's see about, like, if it's football, like you're going to be a quarterback. Oh, great, we better get you in quarterback camp. That's a hard position. Let's do everything we can to make sure you're able to do it. And maybe you can have a quarterback coach or, or a position coach kind of give them a reality check if they're not the greatest. Because most kids aren't. That's the thing. Most of our kids are not the greatest. Um, Most of our kids aren't even really good at what they do or that they're passionate about. They see what it's on TV, they want it to be easy like a video game, you know, and that's hard. There's professional gamers. In a world where we keep telling our kids to, apply themselves and to put down the video games, there's kids that make a living playing games. Um, I still find it funny a ton of comedians have college degrees. Um, I mean, I don't know if it makes them better writers for their comedy, but I just find it funny that they have student debts hoping to make enough money doing something that is a really hard career. Although they get to travel and they get to have limited hours, although you also have to be funny, and that is judged by their people, which seems difficult. Um, I love the concept of being a comedian. I really do, except for the travel. I hate traveling. I'd have to, and there's no comic industry really in Oregon that I know of. Comedians barely come to this state. They avoid it like the plague. Maybe because people are too easily offended here. Drives me bonkers. Everybody's pissy about something, including me apparently. So it's just an opposite version of pissy. Um, well, maybe whatever. My version of pissy. And yeah, that's kind of my take on a lot of kids stuff. It there's a million variations. Do we teach them sex ed and when? Do we, what age are the adults? What age should they, know about condoms and be able to buy condoms? Because that's another adult issue. Most kids have sex way before they're legally able to buy condoms, but we expect them to have safe sex. Not sure how. Um, you know, Planned Parenthood, the evil Planned Parenthood who helps people and gives them free stuff, or charges them minimal for services that people chastise them for, that stuff. Yeah, kids are a complex thing. You want to protect them, but you want them to develop into real people. I get, I mean, my kids drive me nuts all the time. I mean, I try to have them like common sense. I don't see, because they're not asked to do a ton, and some kids are asked to do a ton, but my kids aren't. I ask them to pay attention. I ask a lot of basic stuff. They do have chores, which I don't know why most kids don't seem to. Um, but the common sense stuff, like I don't think we do a lot of teaching of common sense and visually like paying attention and figuring out what's going on. And I would love to see that in school. I don't give a shit if they know who the presidents are. I really don't. I mean, look it up, have a poster, but like just issue a poster. Um, let them later on learn that. When they're kids, like let's just teach them the ability to think. And not our version. Teach them to think, not our ideas, not our opinions, just the ability to comprehend and to think and to be aware. Um, you know, Teach them open-mindedness and research and all this other positive things that will just make a better group of kids. Um, as they go out into the world and go through the aging stuff. Kids can be really mean. Bullying is a major issue. Um, Now the opposite can be awful too. We shouldn't have to force to accept people that are shitheads in class. If you have a loudmouth kid, guess what? Out of class you go. You don't get to disturb the entire class. I don't care, parent. If you want to be, if you want to have allow your kid to be that noisy in class, then you get to pay for it. You get to pay for that kid's education. See if you still have that opinion. I'm a firm believer in if you want to teach people's adults lessons, have it hit their pocket. Whether it be a business owner, a manager, an employee. I see employees break shit all the time and they don't care because it's not theirs. Well, guess what? You break it, you buy it. You break a keyboard, 15 bucks. You break, I don't know, the door, the repair cost is yours. If it's malicious, accidents happen, but if it's malicious, teaching kids the same. Shoot, I don't know if it's Japan, China, somebody, um, like their schools, they don't really have janitors. They make the kids take out the garbage. They make the kids do basics. I mean, they have like custodial engineers come in and do like buffing of the floors and stuff like that, but the basic upkeep of the place, they have the kids do. That way they learn respect for their location. I think that'd be awesome, you know? Learning to respect where you live and work and study, and yeah, that's huge. Parents wouldn't have to argue with their kids to pick up their room. They would get it, you know? And if they don't like cleaning, they know not to become a housekeeper later on. They they want that it incentivizes. No different than landscaping. Have the kids help pull weeds. My kids do. My oldest mows the yard. I mean, yes, I pay them a little bit for those harder tasks. I don't pay them for dusting and keeping their room picked up. That's their room. It should be clean. But there's so much out there that we don't instill in our kids, and we expect the world to eventually teach it to them. And guess what? The world is good at crushing people who aren't ready for it, especially people who are entitled, who feel entitled to, well, why shouldn't I be able to be a, stay-at-home video gamer and make, $100,000 a year? Well, that's fucking dumb is why. Um, you know, Everybody wants to be a blogger, a podcaster. This I'm just hoping I affect some people's minds. I don't. I'm Yeah, I'll probably monetize these things, but I don't expect to have a real wage. I'd like to get a better mic, um, and maybe a little better laptop, but so I can do this stuff, or a computer even. But I'm not expecting this to be my career. I have other stuff I want to have as my career. I just like putting my opinion out there, and I like the therapy that this is for me. I like working things out, even if there's a lot of uhs, and I'm obviously not a radio host. Um, I don't have guests. I'd love to at some point, but I don't have a second mic, and I'm I again, a lot of people I know don't share my opinions, and while I don't expect to talk to only people that agree with me, I'm not in a place where I have time to argue with people that are willing to be friends with me. And I say willing because if they really knew what I thought about most of them, they wouldn't be friends with me. But it's still someone to be nice to, and who wants to see me at work, or not that I hang out with, but who wants to see me in the world occasionally to grab coffee. Um, I don't want to sever those ties because I don't have enough of them to have a few go away based on my differing opinion. So that's why I hide that and my kids and all that other stuff. But we want our kids not to have to hide, but we also need our kids to know when to shut up, when not to say or do anything stupid. Um, it's our responsibility. If you don't like what your kid's learning in school, have them go to a different school. Have them homeschooled. Teach them yourself. There are other options. If you don't like your public school, move. Um, Parents are ultimately accountable for the options we give our kids and the basic rules and parameters at which they start living life. Yes, kids can be cruel, they can bully, they can just be ultimate dickheads. But is that really the kids or is that the parents? I take some responsibility for some of the things that I've taught my kids with video games and introducing them to computers probably too soon. Um, I've also introduced them to, Khan Academy and all this other stuff for online learning. And so I try to yin and yang it a bit. I'm overweight. My kids are a little overweight. I've been trying to learn about eating better so I can teach them about eating better and about being active, not having to work out. But if you want to work out and, how important stretching is because, it's what helps keep your muscles healthy and keeps you from getting hurt when you're being active. And I try to do a lot of this stuff with them. I talk to them all the time. All this stuff, well, not all of it, but a lot of this stuff, I have these conversations with my kids. I mean, if it's a little more older stuff, I talk to my older one and not my younger one there. And there's some stuff that I don't talk to either of them about because so don't find the ones that you find inappropriate for children. But like, what about this one? I probably haven't talked to them about that one. Um, I understand age appropriateness. I just feel that I okay. Here's another thing is parenting. I feel like your kids should know you don't know. You don't have all the answers. You have your understandings, you have your ideas, you have your experience, but you don't know have all the answers. You don't know what's going to make them happy. You don't have control over their life because you don't. And them knowing it, I think is important. I can control what they have access to. I can control the options I give them, but ultimately the decisions they make and the happiness they get from it or don't get from it is their choices to make. I mean, minus chemical imbalances and spectrum type stuff. And my kids have a little bit of those too. But you know what? Everybody does. I do. My wife does. My ex-wife really does when it comes to spectrum. Well, not that, not spectrum. Is it? Is bipolar a spectrum? I have, shoot, whatever. Um, you know, there's enough physical, and genetic things that, add or remove difficulties into our lives and they're not obstacles. They can be. I mean, there are ones that are debilitating, and I feel bad for any parent who has that. I mean, something where you don't get that love, you don't get that back and forth. I feel so bad because you're still gonna love your kid the same. I've seen it. You still love. I mean, those parents still love their child who can't express it back or isn't fully functional. So it's just this endless chore of someone you love who, uh, you know, isn't gonna ever move out, who isn't gonna ever produce grandkids for you. Not that it's their job, but it's always a nice thought. I see grandparents to my kids, and they love that job way more than being a parent. It's the whole purpose. Well, I'll deal with 18 years or 24 years of you, but ultimately, I want that kid I get to play with and send back. I want the best of the best. Um, yeah, I just accountability, responsibility, those things are dying, even in adults. And I would love to see them come back. I think it's important. I think that, you know, this is wrong because I contributed as an asshole to this subject. Um, and we all do. We all contribute in some way. We all either come together or come apart for different things. You know, teaching the kids that the 1%, has everything is might be factual, but teaching them that they should pay for everything too is bullshit. I mean, don't feed them your ideals. Let them learn. Teach them finance if you know it. Tell them to learn finance in case they ever do get money. They know how to build wealth. Let's start empowering kids to become what we want them to become. Have happiness and options and, you know, Anyway, hope you found this, I guess, helpful. I don't know about helpful, but maybe something we don't always consider. Anyway, have a good one.